The title of this story is In Love with a Memory. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a wife who he loved very much, and the wife also loved him very much. Sadly, one day she got sick and she passed away. The king could not handle it. He broke down, he cried, he screamed, he decided not to eat anymore, decided not to sleep, decided not to shower. He just didn't care about life anymore. He took her coffin and he just laid on top of it, hugging it every day. Everyone in the country started to get worried about him, really, really worried. And they tried to tell him, tried to convince him, tried to cheer him up, but nothing would work. He just missed his wife and he shut down. At the same time, in a mountain far away but not too far, there was a person called an ascetic who was meditating all the time. One day he decided to send his energy out and check out the world and see what's happening in the world around him. And he saw that the king was struggling with suffering, and he knew that he had the ability to help the king. So he traveled through the air and landed in the field near the palace, and he sat on a big rock, and he just sat there. One day, a person walked by, a messenger of the king walked by and saw him and said, "Are you a wise man?" He's like, "Yes." He's like, "My king has been suffering. Do you know of any way to help him?" He's like, "Yes, I can help him. I can tell him where his wife is now. And if he wants, I can even let him talk to her." That's all he had to hear. The messenger went to tell the king, and the king rushed to the wise man and says, "Wise man, is it true? Is it true? You know where my wife is now?" "Yes." It's like, "And I can even talk to her?" "Yes." He said, "Where is she? I want to talk to her now." And he says, "Well, the thing is, king, you better be ready for what you hear." He's like, "Can you accept the truth?" "I can. I can accept it. I'll accept anything as long as I can talk to her again." She says, "Okay." Well, the thing is, when she was alive, she was so obsessed with her own beauty and how pretty she was and having fun with life that she never gave charity, she never helped others, and she wasn't too kind to other people. And so she was reborn as a dung worm, which is like a little worm that hides in the feces. And so he says, "Your wife is now a dung worm." And he's like, "No, it's impossible. It's impossible. She would never be reborn as a worm." And he's like, "Would you like to talk to her?" He's like, "Yes." And so he made the dung worm appear on the top, and then she talked to him. And he asked her, "Worm, what were you last life?" She's like, "I was the queen." "Who were you married to?" "I was married to the king." "Do you still love the king as your husband?" The little worm thought about it and says, "I have a recollection of him being my husband. But no, since I've been born as a worm, I've been eating my food. I have a new husband. I have a new family. I don't really remember him too much." And when the king heard that, he was shocked. "What do you mean you don't remember me? We were so in love and we loved each other so much." She's like, and then he asked her, "Dung worm, if you had to choose between the old king, who was your husband, and the new worm, which is your new husband, who would you choose?" She says, "Out of 100 times, I would choose my new husband 100 times. That broke the king's heart. But at that moment, he chose to use his wisdom to understand. Instead of becoming depressed, he realized something. What he was attached to, what he was remembering, what he couldn't forget, was not the real person. He was in love with his memories of her. He was thinking about her and all the memories, and that's what he was in love with. That's what he was obsessed with. The real person had already been reborn in a new place, had already started a new life, already had a new family, and moved on. But the person who couldn't move on is the person who kept repeating and being in love with a memory. And so he decided, that's enough. She has moved on, I need to move on. And at that day, he cleaned himself up, shaved, took a shower, ate food, and he began to do his job as a king appropriately because he realized he was only in love with a memory.